This next storm has the potential to become a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. Plus, we've got a cool down on the way. This dominant ridge of high pressure parked across the middle of the country is still featured across a good part of the southern plains, but you can actually see on the northern periphery, it's already started to break down a little bit. You can actually see this weakness up across the Great Lakes and as well as into the Northeast. And that's the beginning signs of this ridge of high pressure will be slowly actually shifting off westbound. That's going to allow this system that's going to be coming out of the Caribbean to shift into the Gulf of Mexico. That actually could become a hurricane by the time we get into the middle of next week. So there are the temperatures, the high temperatures for today. Wow, it is crazy comfortable up there in Maine. That's 60s for highs across that state. That is going to be feeling really nice for you guys up there in much of the Northeast. And that is just the beginning signs of a pretty good cool down on the way. But you can definitely see where the ridge is really, maximizing those temperatures the further south you go. And it's just widespread triple digits across Texas and Louisiana this afternoon. And you've got several more days to come, but there's definitely a cool down on the way, even for you guys. So let's take a look at the setup and how this is actually all going to evolve. You can see by Sunday, that trough really shows up pretty significantly with a pretty good cool down across a good part of the Northeast. That will slowly try to shift into portions of the Ohio Valley and pull some of that cooler air. We are going to have a summertime cold front shifting southbound as that ridge of high pressure slowly retreats back off to the west and hangs out back in the deserts again. And that's going to allow this system into the Caribbean to try to get its act together and likely going to be shifting off into the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico. And there is Franklin out there across into the Atlantic. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily updates on this channel. And plus you can help me reach my goal of 200,000 subscribers on this channel. And if you're in the market for a weather station, I definitely highly recommend the Tempest from Weatherflow. It's actually the one I personally have myself. And it's a cool thing about it is it's an all-in-one system. It's a complete 5-in-1 system, and it's all solar, and it only takes about 10 minutes to install. So once you set this thing up, it's a set and forget it, folks. It pretty much just, has updates on a regular basis. You can download the app on your phone. My whole family actually has it on their phone. Plus, you can be a part of the Tempest community that now has over 55,000 in it. So I do have a discount code if you are interested in getting one of these for yourself. It's PalPonder10, and that provides 10% off and free shipping. So if you'd like to purchase one, I'll actually have the link in the description below so you could possibly click on it and get one for yourself. But let's take a look at the tropics because this is really concerning, guys. So here's the setup. You can already see the flare up. We talked about this yesterday, that convection of activity that was coming across Central America. Now that's actually drifting into the Caribbean. They've got some deep ocean water content out in that region, and you can already see the flare up trying to get its act together with this particular low pressure starting to, starting to rotate across this region. And there's Franklin. So Franklin is actually going to be probably coming a hurricane, if not possibly a major hurricane, but it's not going to be any impact towards land, as this will be safely keeping out in the open waters. But there is the system that we're most concerned about across into the Caribbean. Now the National Hurricane Center has a 70% probability of this becoming a depression or possibly a storm as early as this weekend. So definitely be on high alert across Florida, from the Florida Panhandle all the way across the entire state. So this could be a pretty formidable storm to contend with because it's going into a very favorable environment, especially as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico with pretty much low shear across this region and very warm waters to contend with. So here's the setup by Monday. So you can definitely see by the trend of the ridge, it pulls back even more and allows this system, this backdoor trough, to bring in a little bit cooler conditions. You have somewhat of a reprieve of the triple digit temperatures into the southern plains, you can already see the formation of this particular system coming out of the Caribbean, and this will be likely drifting into the Gulf by the time we head into Monday afternoon, likely into Tuesday timeframe. So if you look at the latest update from the ensemble guidance, it kind of shows a compact system, right? You got a lot of members coming together and said, hey, this is taking a beeline towards the Gulf of Mexico and taking a beeline towards Florida. There's Franklin, also compacted, but those compacted had actually heading out into the open water. So we're really not concerned about Franklin, even though it will be probably our first major hurricane of the season in about 5 to 7 days. But more concerning is the Gulf of Mexico. And what's also concerning, we're starting to see a little bit more model congruency starting to come together. Remember, the GFS really wasn't on board with this system, but now it is. The last several ones have actually shown the same system that a lot of models are showing as well. So we're starting to see getting a little bit concerning. Here's the latest update. Maybe a Tuesday afternoon has it down to about a 990 millibar low pressure system impacting portions of the Florida Panhandle back into portions of Florida here. Remember, these storms are right front quadrant loaded. So all signs this thing is heading to Florida. Whether it's going to be a strong tropical storm or a hurricane is yet to be determined. And we'll have more once this center is able to form. But what's also concerning, it looks to be taking an eerily similar track to what Michael did as well. Remember Michael, it was same as this system, right? Just a little tropical wave. It formed into a tropical storm back on, October the 7th when a couple years ago. But look at it, it just rapidly exploded. And this is taking a similar track. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be another Hurricane Michael, but it definitely, gives you goosebumps that this thing is taking a similar track. And yeah, this one very rapidly accelerated into a major hurricane, went to a Category 4, and unfortunately ballooned up to a rare Category 5 and made landfall up there in the Florida Panhandle. So this is definitely a storm that we definitely have to keep an eye on and fine tune, and we will do this on this channel. Here's the latest GFS going into Wednesday. So this actually continues to intensify, now down to a possible 980 millibar. If that were to come to fruition, that would be a Category 2 hurricane. So yes, definitely a little bit concerning. Today is Friday. We don't have a low-level center, so we don't know exactly where the cone's going to be, but all certainties say, hey, it's going to be anywhere from the Florida Panhandle really into Florida. I mean, Florida is definitely going to get hit with the tropical system. No question about it by the time we head into the middle of next week. And the Europeans on board as well. So we've got the GFS, we've got the European, and we've got the Canadian, kind of the same deal, minimal hurricane, and even the Icon. So we've got a lot of models saying, hey, this thing is going to be at least a tropical storm, no question, if not maybe a hurricane. So we won't know the intensity until this thing, actually forms a low-level center. And like I mentioned, we'll probably have one by the time we head into late this weekend. But set up between now and then, before this thing gets going, here's the rain aspect. So we still dealing with the remnants of Hillary, right? The remnants of Hillary is kind of raining itself out across New Mexico and across portions of Colorado. And then it gets caught up in that little backdoor trough and that little cold front. So even portions of, say, Kansas is going to get in the action with some heavier rains, with just the remnants and the swirl in the atmosphere of what was Hillary that made landfall into South Texas a couple of days ago. So they're still dealing with the remnants, and most of this is going to be in the combination of this trough. The speed of the trough is going to be, relative on where this track's ultimately going to go. So who's going to win the race on these systems? Is the cold front going to be pushing it further into Florida, or is it going to be able to slow down and take it more of a northward track and head into the Florida Panhandle? So yes, that is yet to be determined. But all signs point to a formidable system. Here's the latest wind swath. If the GFS were to come to fruition, puts it about an 80-mile-per-hour hurricane, heading into your Wednesday time frame. And there's the European. So yeah, similar type locations, off by a couple of 100 miles. And really the main difference is just depending on how fast this cold front is and how fast it's going to be able to pick up this system and swing it inland to Florida. But it's got a lot of heavy rain, folks. There is no question this is going to be a heavy rainmaker. Very deep ocean water content, very, very warm surface waters out there in the Gulf. And the closer it gets to shore, the warmer the waters get, right along the shore as well. And these are 2, possibly 3-inch per hour rainfall rates. So you're definitely looking at not just a high wind threat, but definitely some very heavy rain that's going to be associated with this system. And remember, it's right front quadrant, right? So don't keep all eyes just on where the actual cone's going to be. Even if you're on the right side of this, you're going to get nailed with very heavy rain. It's just typically on the left side. It's your dry side, you're kind of the dry slot, and you get a lot less activity across the portions, on the left-hand side, on the east, on the west side. But nonetheless, this is going to be definitely a heavy rainmaker. So, but there's the cool down. So even as we go into Wednesday, you can definitely see it's pretty evident, right? Not just the Great Lakes, not just the Northeast, and it's not really just the Ohio Valley. You're cooling off across portions of the South. Arkansas into the 80s. We're talking Oklahoma in the 80s. That is some nice, comfortable conditions compared to what you've been seeing lately. And even Texas, there's not even a triple digit on the map, right? So that is a decent cold front, for this time of year, for August standards at least. Definitely better than what you've been dealing with for many, many weeks, across the South. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video and definitely hit the subscribe button and catch the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.